Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this webinar presentation of how White Ops mitigates advertising and marketing fraud. My name is Adam Sell. I work on the marketing team here at White Ops, and joining me today is Noah Simon, who works on the product team.
Hey, Adam, great to be here.
Thank you. Now, today we're going to be talking about things in three different segments. The first segment we're going to be discussing is the state of advertising fraud today. We'll take a look at just how bad the bot problem is in advertising fraud and exactly how we came to the conclusions that we did. Then we'll segue into the state of marketing fraud today. And from there, we'll talk about how White Ops works to mitigate both advertising and marketing fraud. So starting first with the state of advertising fraud, we have the expectation based on our own internal research that we conducted in conjunction with the Association for National Advertisers that advertising fraud is going to go down in 2019 compared to the earlier reports that we've conducted. And that's a great thing to hear, but the bad news is that it is still a multi-billion-dollar problem. There's no elegant way to get around that. It is still a significant problem in the industry. And the way that we know this is through a report that we published this past May called the 2018-2019 Bot Baseline Report. As mentioned, we did this in conjunction with the Association for National Advertisers. And the way that we did this is we worked closely with 50 member organizations, some of the biggest brands in the world. We worked closely with their brand advertisers and their agencies to analyze the digital advertising activity data between beginning of August and the end of September. And in just those 2 months, we looked at 27 billion impressions on their digital advertising. As a result of the research that we did there, we projected that losses to fraud and advertising will reach $5.8 billion globally this year. And 2 years ago, in the previous iteration of this report, we projected that the losses would reach 6.5 billion. So yes, that's an 11% decline in 2 years, and that's definitely a notable decline, and we're excited to see that progress in the industry. But that's still $5.8 billion that are lost this year alone. It is notable in particular because digital ad spending jumped by a quarter between 2017 and 2019. So for some notes on why we projected that ad fraud was going to decline this year, here are 5 reasons that we came to. The first is that the use of fraud detection and prevention solutions, it's up. And this is great news. It's making a huge difference in the marketplace. Numbers 2 and 3 refer to how much easier it used to be to get high quality bot traffic. And by high quality, we mean bots that are residing on newly infected machines, desktop, laptop, phones that have recently been infected with something that is now carrying out bot traffic on someone else's behalf. But several large botnet takedowns, including Eve, which I'll refer to again shortly, make it a lot harder for bad actors to find, purchase, and use that bot traffic. Number 4 discusses the ads.txt initiative, which was debuted in 2017 as a project of the IAB. And of the volume that was studied in this survey, 78% of it was covered by the ads.txt initiative. And that's particularly fascinating because less than half of all domains out there in the world have an ads.txt file associated with them. It's definitely an indicator that there's a long way to go for us to be able to completely eradicate domain spoofing as a practice. But measures like ads.txt, even within the first couple of years of their existence, have made an enormous impact. And finally, number 5, as I referenced Eve, botnet takedowns have brought real consequences for bad actors. We can only expect fraud to decline if we continue to hold criminals responsible for the work that they do.
Thank you, Adam. Even with all these advances, there are still a lot of challenges that remain for the industry. Let's dive into a few of them. I'm not going to go into great detail on every one of these challenges, but I will highlight a few. First, mobile web fraud remains a challenge, especially for mobile web video, where fraudsters can turn a profit even for publishers that pay a high price per visitor. Second, fraud is also really common now with in-app advertising as a result of app spoofing. Third, with the advent of SSAI, fraudsters have sought out new ways to beat the system, and so that continues to be a challenge. Fourth, CTV advertising is just beginning, and it is a premium space with a lack of industry standards on devices, apps, and ads. The industry will have to apply greater rigor to protect CTV as a premium space and prevent fraudsters from capitalizing on these higher CPMs in this premium space. And finally, there are also signs of incentivized ads from certain publishers, and our study has found that bot rates were nearly twice as high in incentivized channels than regular channels. Let's dive into mobile apps with manipulated behavior. Fraudulent apps remain a challenge, especially on mobile. Two of the most common threat models we see are app spoofing, when an app sends a bundle ID different from its real ID, and manipulated behavior, when a browser, application, or other program triggers an ad interaction without that user's consent. This could be an unintended click, an unexpected conversion, or some sort of false attribution. Recently, the White Ops Threat Intelligence team uncovered 74 apps with manipulated behavior from a developer Tushu that was committing ad fraud. This is just one example of the challenges that remains specifically for in-app fraud. Device impersonation is also increasingly common. This is when an ad is rendered to a device that is different than what the advertiser intended to serve it on. Device impersonation is especially common for mobile and for CTV. And this is currently the top threat model White Ops observes for CTV. With those top challenges in advertising, let's pivot over to the top challenges we're seeing today for marketing fraud.
So the big question when it comes to marketing fraud is how much of the traffic that's coming to your website as a result of your digital marketing initiatives are humans, as opposed to sophisticated bots that just kind of look like humans. The spend that we're putting out there as a marketing industry on digital efforts is incredible. More than $108 billion was spent last year on digital advertising and marketing with the goal of getting traffic to websites to turn into leads and then turn into revenue generating customers. That is a huge marketplace, and fraudsters are going to be paying very, very close attention to that to figure out how they might be able to siphon off a piece of that for themselves. So there are dramatic impacts that bots can have on your marketing spend. Look at all of the different ways that bots can become a part of your marketing system on the left. Your lead gen campaigns, display advertising, all the way down through SEO. There are many, many different ways that marketers are working to get people to their website. The question is, what happens if the person that you've converted on your website through a form is not in fact a person, but a sophisticated bot? That can have downstream effects in your marketing automation by impacting your retargeting campaigns. It can result in your salespeople trying to contact people who don't actually exist, and it can cause problems for your data management platforms.
Exactly right, Adam. And some of the companies we talked to today have experienced a variety of negative business consequences as a result of generating fraudulent leads or bringing bots to their website. The first is obviously wasted spend. If you don't know that a lead is fraudulent, then remarketing costs or sales follow-up costs is actually money spent with no conversion in sight. That also brings me into the second, which is lower conversion rates. Obviously, most often than not, a bot is not going to buy your service or your product. So generating leads that turn out to have been bots are going to lower overall conversion rates if you are factoring them in without knowing it. Of course, there's wasted time. If you don't know that a lead that has been generated is a bot, and neither does sales, that can be 5 to 10 minutes on a call wasted. Or it could be a prospecting email, carefully written, that was actually wasted. And finally, when you're assessing the overall efficacy of a campaign, and you don't know that there are leads in there that could have been driven from bots, that can make it really hard to assess the efficacy of that spend, that campaign, and the overall health of your database that might live in a CRM or DMP platform. We spoke to one leading car manufacturer who wasn't aware that they had a problem of bots visiting their website. They actually had a specific landing page for test drives for one specific model of their cars, and they noticed that traffic was good. They were getting a lot of traffic, a lot of interest in test driving a specific car. It was actually so good that it was abnormal and they wanted to dig into it. They placed the white ops detection tag on their site, and we realized that roughly 23% of landing page traffic was actually driven from bots, the majority of which was one source. So with that insight, this car manufacturer has now realized, maybe bots are a problem, and maybe this is something I need to actually track and make sure that I can identify the sources so that my campaigns are clean data and that my sales follow-up is not wasted. So let's talk about how white ops mitigates advertising and marketing fraud. Before we start, it's important to note that yesterday's bots are not like today's bots. Yesterday's bots lived in data centers, they lacked cookies, and they behaved pretty much like regular bots with some abnormal behavior that clearly wasn't human. Today's bots are not like that. Today's bots predominantly reside on residential machines. They steal your cookies, your browser history, and they behave like humans. They can imitate your mouse movements or your keyboard strokes very intimately. Over 75 of today's bots reside on residential machines. That means we must be able to distinguish human activity from bot activity, even when they're stemming from the same device. So how do we do it? At White Ops, we have a multi-layer detection methodology that allows us to detect even the most sophisticated bots with unprecedented accuracy. First, we start with technical evidence. This means we're probing the device to gather data on its network, device, software, application, and user configuration to detect any technical evidence of compromise. Second, we have a global threat intelligence team who's proactively hunting for new threats on the internet and attributing them to specific botnet operators. This allows us to feed those findings back into our detection algorithms to continually improve our detection. Third, we use machine learning, analyzing thousands of data points collected across 1 trillion interactions each week. And this allows us to predict malicious behavior even when we don't have sufficient technical evidence. And finally, we use continuous adaptation, continually changing our detection algorithms and markers. Our speed to identify and build new detection mechanisms mean we can stay ahead of the adversary more than other solutions that are built on fixed detection mechanisms, specifically around anomalous behavior. This minimizes the window of possibilities an adversary can defeat us or evade our detection before having to spend even more resources yet again to try and defeat our detection. Let's talk quickly about White Ops visibility and scale. Today, we have over 200 customers, including the largest internet platforms today. We have over 1 trillion interactions that we see each week from all these customers, and over 20 data centers across the globe to block traffic in real time, to block invalid traffic, excuse me. Our reach and our scale is what allows us to detect bots with unprecedented accuracy. Today, White Ops has solutions to help advertisers and marketers ensure they are engaging with real humans. Marketing integrity helps optimize marketing spend by removing sources that deliver non-human traffic. This means we're identifying bots that visit your website and skew analytics, slow down your website, or perhaps even bots that fill out contact forms and become fraudulent leads. We can prevent fraudulent leads by matching CRM data with bot-driven form fills, and thus eliminate retargeting and sales activity on fake traffic that was never real in the first place. Advertising integrity delivers pre-bid fraud protection for desktop, mobile, and OTT environments. This helps customers minimize clawbacks and any inefficiency. It also helps them gain visibility into fraud and force out fraudulent supply. And finally, it helps ensure human verified inventory so that advertising platforms can protect and grow their revenue. Marketing integrity is easily deployed by placing detection tags directly on our website pages, on your website pages, landing pages, registration pages, and more. Our detection tags fire asynchronously and in the background. This means there's no impact on your site load time or website performance. Customers then configure postback URLs to receive all bot or not decisions from White Ops in near real time. This means they can prevent bots from becoming leads that enter DMPs, CRMs, and other marketing automation systems. Finally, using the White Ops dashboard, marketers can identify sources of bot traffic from all marketing tactics. This includes spend on social media, mobile, display, video, and other lead generation efforts. Armed with these insights, marketers are using White Ops to inform marketing tactics that maximize human engagement and in turn increase conversion rates and sales. Advertising Integrity is a real-time prediction service that identifies invalid traffic at the bid request and prevents invalid traffic from becoming an impression downstream. Today, Advertising Integrity prevents over 100 billion fraudulent impressions each day. It is delivered as a REST API that combines our global detection cloud with closed-loop machine learning to deliver accurate predictions in milliseconds. This is a unique solution in that it references our detection cloud, which features 7+ years of detection data and parameters of impressions in real time. What this means is that we don't have to rely on blacklists, historical signatures, or other reputations as other pre-bid fraud solutions do. This results in a highly accurate prevention service that many of the leading advertising platforms rely on each day, such as The Trade Desk, MediaMath, Xandr, Talaria, and others. Having covered those products, let's head and see if there's any questions that have come through the webinar.
Yeah, we've gotten a few, and I'd love to take those and ask you those. So the first question that came in was whether or not White Ops has any viewability and safety solutions.
We get this question a lot. It's a good question, Adam. The answer is no. White Ops is solely focused on fraud. Fraud is a cybersecurity challenge, and our company's resources are devoted entirely to it.
Okay, great. And one other that has come in is about whether or not people can evade the detection things that we have in place. You know, it can be a little like playing whack-a-mole, trying to find the bots out there. Is there other ways that criminals have found to get around what we do?
Great question. We make it extremely difficult for criminals to evade our detection. Our tests are run to be dynamic. We change them on an hourly basis to make sure that criminals can't stay ahead of our efforts or that they can't reverse engineer us. We also make use of machine learning to identify bots that might be harder to spot in a vacuum. For example, a group of machines that are all in the same location, all at the same time, with the same brightness level, might suggest that those machines are not being operated by humans. With these two methods, we make it very hard for any criminal to evade our detection.
So another question that came in relates to how we play within the ad ecosystem, that we work with several different types of organizations like the DSPs and SSPs in the ad tech ecosystem. Can you talk a little bit about how we work with those two different groups?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with DSPs. DSPs use White Ops to prevent fraud before the bid across all digital environments. And this means they're preventing fraud before the bid with real-time prevention. So a lot of DSPs use us to maximize their win rates and their revenue potential by ensuring the ads they delivered are actually being delivered to humans. And they can do this with this real-time prevention capability. And today, White Ops works with leading DSPs such as MediaMath, Xandr, and The Trade Desk. On the other side, you have the SSPs, and they also use White Ops to prevent fraudulent traffic before the bid. And this allows them to reduce any fraud that might be stemming from publishers they work with. Some of the leading SSPs that work with White Ops are Talaria, Rubicon, and GumGum.
Well, that's great. And the last question that I think we have time for today is about kind of a new market for advertisers, talking about the CTV and OTT platforms out there, connected television and over the top. How do we work within those new and emerging platforms?
Excellent question, Adam. And so, you know, as with desktop and mobile, White Ops can also prevent fraud before the bid on OTT and CTV environments, excuse me. We have a team dedicated solely for CTV now. This consists of CTV researchers who are looking to create specific algorithms and identify device, OS, and network level characteristics that give us visibility into fraudulent traffic today. Already today, we're seeing about 100 or over 100 billion requests on CTV platforms each month. And this is across 15 different platforms. And we have the ability to block fraudulent traffic on these platforms before the bid for several clients today that use request OTT inventory.
Great, thank you, Noah, and thank you again for taking the time today to talk with our webinar attendees about how White Ops can mitigate advertising and marketing fraud. If anybody has any more questions about how White Ops can work with their organization, we recommend that you check out whiteops.com or reach out to us at info@whiteops.com for more information. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope that we'll see you on a future webinar.